What's up, everybody? It's Richie Rich, and today we're gonna go over the Canadian Charter of Freedoms and Rights. Alright, so what we got today for you is a doozy. We're gonna go over every single Ork unit in the codex. So all of the ones that are available for match play or grand tournament, there's 72 units. We're gonna do them all. Now, this video is not going to go in depth, so if you haven't checked out my series that goes over all of the 9th edition codex in depth, please check that out. This is basically going to be a supplement to that, as there's been a lot of changes in the points cost for these units with the chapter approved 2022. There was that data slate release that changed up the buggies. So this is going to be a quick update where we're just going to be ranking the units and giving just a brief why. We're not going to go super in depth as to why each unit is ranked the way that it is. So for the more in-depth video, go look at the playlist where I have all of the units and I go over each of them. So starting off with the Beast Boss, I think the Beast Boss took a significant hit. Beast Boss on Squigosaur, it took a significant hit, and it's not actually being... I thought that it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it actually ended up being a bigger deal than I thought. So I'm going to be putting it as a B class. I still think it's viable, but giving it that big nerf did hurt it a lot. This used to be S tier, but it's been dragged down to, I would say, B tier, and a lot of people are taking the War Boss versus the Beast Boss on Squigosaur now. Beast Boss, the regular one, is unfortunately C tier. It's really outshone by every other HQ class, and it really doesn't do much. The Pain Doc is also, I would say, D tier. Because Orks are no longer running a lot of boys, it's hard for this guy to really pay back itself. We'll see if it has some use with Mega Knobs, but for now, I would say the Pain boss is easily a D tier. Doesn't really do too much. Runt same thing, D tier, with Gretchen just getting weaker in 9th edition. Runt are not seeing any play in competitive, and they are very much D tier in competitive ranking. Bonebreaker, I think, got a well-needed buff, but unfortunately I still think it's C tier. It's not strong enough, and I think the regular Battle Wagon is actually better than the Bonebreaker. The Morkanaut, I believe, is also C tier. It is not performing well, and making it Lords of War was actually quite a big nerf, and I think keeping it at the regular 250 points cost in 8th edition was better than in 9th edition. It hasn't seen much changes in the data slates or any patches, but I think it's going to need a buff to see competitive play. Big Mech and Mega Armor, on a good note, is, I would say, somewhere between A and B. Just to keep things simple, we're going to put it in B tier. It still has playability, and it hasn't been changed in the new data slate or chapter 2022, and it's being seen some play here and there. Makari is D tier. Makari is seeing zero play. This was used as essentially a pain boy in 8th edition, but now, again, once that people are no longer running a lot of boys, Makari has not seen any play in competitive play. The Squigosaur boys, or the boys on the Squig Hog, not Squigosaurs, are A tier. They are very strong. They're sturdy. If they get into melee, they pack a big punch. They're fast. They're really good, and I would definitely put them in the A tier. They're a great unit. Zogrot, D tier, doesn't do much. Gretchen are still weak, unfortunately. D tier. Commandos got hit pretty hard too. I would put them in between C and B. I would say they're B tier. Now we're seeing that they were pretty crucial in Goff's list, and that points crease really did hurt, because these were some of our best infantry units, and they took a big hit. Storm Boys, cusping on S tier, A and S. They're just so good. I'm going to put them in S tier. They're so good for objectives. They're now the cheapest group of infantry that you can take that are not Gretchen. They're mobile, they're jump, they can fly around. They're just a great unit overall in terms of playing with the objectives. So I put them as S tier. The regular War Boss is not seeing too much play. I would say it's the bottom of B tier. It's probably just above the regular, not the regular War Boss, but the Beast Boss. It's seeing very limited play now. A lot of people are taking the Mega Armor version now, or they're just taking the war boss and war bike. And unfortunately, it's really fallen out of grace. In the beginning of the year, we saw more war bosses, and at the end of last year as well. But right now, we're not seeing much war boss action. Pain Boy is, again, C tier. I would say it's better than the Pain Boss just because of the points. But other than that, it is not seeing much play and just not doing much. The mech, me personally, I just don't understand this, so I'm putting it in D tier, but some people do like to use it, so you know what, I'll bump it up a bit. I would say it's at the front end of C tier. It's seen some usage. People like to use this to give it relics in the Blood Axe detachment so that you can farm command points with the thinking cap. Other than that, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this unit, but people are getting use out of it. And it does see some fringe play, so I'm going to put it in C tier. Trucks are really good. I would put trucks at, this is a close one. I would say A tier. Trucks are really good now, especially with the whole Truck Boys mechanic. They're very strong. They've got Ramshackle now. Didn't see any changes in Nakmund or in the data slate, so they're still going strong. Stompa, unfortunately, is also C tier. I would say it's like somewhere in between these guys. Let's just put it right here. Stompa is not seeing any play. I do think it has more potential than the Bonebreaker, the Morkanaut, and the Pain Boy. Time will tell. There were some Stompa lists in 8th edition, but not much happening with it right now. Death Dread, kind of similar story. I would put it at maybe the back of B, front of C. They've really fallen out of grace. Death Dreads were putting on a lot of work in 8th edition, especially in Death Skull's list, but with all the new changes in 9th edition and also them not being helped too much in the data slate, there's just so many better options than the Death Dread, unfortunately. Funny enough, Killicans are really good, actually. I would put them in B tier. They're super cheap. They're harder to kill than you think, and they actually pack a bigger punch than most people think. They're pretty effective points-wise, and now they can use stratagems as well. So Killicans are great, and they got buffed in the Warzone Nakman, so they're much better than they were. So they're definitely B tier. Mech Guns also got a buff. I'm going to just, for simplicity's sake, group all the Mech Guns together. Mech Guns, I would say, is probably around here. Maybe actually just around here in the B tier. Actually, I'm going to shift this like this. I would say the Mech Guns are... They're not the choice. They're no longer the de facto choice for the Orc army, but they're still a very good way to use up some heavy slots if you got some points left over, and they still pack a punch. They can be still very points effective. So for that reason, I'll put them in B tier. Specifically, the custom Mega Blaster version is very strong. The Shock Attack mech, oh boy, this is not doing much at all this edition. I would put it in maybe the back of C tier. I think it has some playability, but even with that buff to the ballistic skill, it's just not reliable enough. Every time I've run the Shock Attack, I'm pretty disappointed in it. It's not doing the most. Flash Kits did get buffed, so that does help them a bit. I would say they're also in the C tier. They're not that great, though. Like, they just feel underwhelming for their points cost, and the fact that their weapons are heavy now is quite a disappointment. I wish they were DACA. That might make them a bit more playable, but for their points cost and what they do, which is not much right now, I'll put them at the back of C tier. The Gorkanaut, I think, is far stronger than the Morkanaut and the Stompa. I'm going to put it in the middle of the pack in C tier. I think it does have some playability. Time will tell. Right now, there's no space for this in any archetypes, but we'll have to see. Meganobs got really buffed, and I'm going to put them up in A tier. I think we're going to see some more Meganobs. They got a reduction of a buff, 10%, about 15% reduction in points cost. They went down 5 points. So I do believe we're going to be seeing a lot more Meganob action, especially combined with the fact that you can give these guys Truck Boys. So now you can have Meganobs being driven straight into the face of your enemies. Okay, I always confuse these, but I believe the red one is the Dakajet. So Dakajet is definitely top of A borderline S tier. Let's put it S because we're actually, yeah, A tier. Let's say A tier. It's doing very well. More people are taking Waz bombs now, but Dakajet being Dakajet, it's still great. They did nerf flyers across the board. Now you're limited to 2, but Dakajets are still a very hot contender for one of those flyers. Burn Obama saw some play early on. I would say this is probably on the back of B, front of C. Let's just put it here. Yeah, it's just not doing a whole lot. And just not seeing much play. But it was seeing more play than all of these units, so I'm going to put it in C tier. Sorry, this is the Dakajet. So Dakajet goes over there, and this is the Blitzabama, which also I think is in the middle of the range here. Maybe we could put it just behind. These two were seeing some play in the list, but now with the flyer limitation, everyone's just taking Dakajets or the Wazbomb, which is doing amazing. Wazbomb is just tearing everybody up. It's S tier for sure. Almost every archetype is picking up the Wazbomb. It's the choice of flyer. It's anti-armor. You can even give it super shooters. It does everything. You can give it 5+ invuln. It's awesome. Sadly, boys, the namesake of our army, are very weak right now. I would say they're C tier. You only really pick them when you have to, which is kind of sad. I think they could definitely use dropping 1 point. Like at 8 points, they would be, I wouldn't even be saying that they're amazing. I would say they would be competitive. But at 9 points, I think they're too expensive. And it's really hard to justify taking boys. We don't even have Green Tide anymore. So boys are actually probably even behind the flyers. So I would put them right here behind the flyers in the C tier. Now Gretchen, oh boy, Gretchen are just not so hot either. I would put them like maybe here in the C tier. You'd never really want to take Gretchen now. They're just too expensive. They're really only for filling up detachments, but nowadays everyone's taking patrols, so you're just better off taking boys. The Gretchens have been hit pretty damn hard, and Data Slate didn't help them, nor did the chapter approved. Burnas on paper are very nice. I would put them in the back of B tier. They're really nice stat wise. Their flamers got actual range now, so you could deep strike and Burna. They're not played as much as they would be in theory, because I think infantry as a whole has taken a big hit in the Orc list, but still I would say they're reasonably B tier. Ludas I think are somewhere in the middle of C tier. They did get a buff with the chapter approved 2022, so time will tell, but again, infantry as a whole in the Orc codex took a big hit, so they're not doing too hot. Funny enough, knobs are doing super well. I would put them somewhere here in the B tier. And there's actually a lot of lists, especially Goths, that are running a lot of knobs. Goth lists did take a big hit with a lot of nerfs in chapter 2022, but I still do think that knobs are pretty good. The double choppa knobs seem to be the favorite of a lot of Orc players, and I do expect us to see more knobs being played. Bikers are definitely on the cusp of S and A. I would put them probably in A tier, as the front of A tier, as they're doing super well right now. A lot of people are playing speed mobs, and now the bikers can get objectives secured, which makes them super strong. And yeah, I would definitely say they're A tier, maybe even S tier. Honestly, they're pretty damn good right now. Let's put them in S. All right, is this the Boomdaka Snazwagon? Yeah, the Boomdaka Snazwagon. So this is seeing some play. I would go ahead and put this also in the B tier here. Probably a bit of somewhere around here. It's doing well. People are picking these up in lists, and they are performing. They did get buffed a lot, and with the recent nerf to the Megatrax and the Squig Buggies, more people are playing around with these. Death Killer Wartrike is also very solid choice, really good choice for HQ. I would even say it's somewhere here, maybe just behind the Daka Jet. It's very strong HQ choice, doing quite well. Actually, you could even argue that it's at the front of the A tier, as it's one of the few HQ that can give everybody the speed mob, speed wog. Custom booster blasters are doing very well. I would actually put them at the back of A tier. They are very efficient at clearing chaff. They can deal with medium toughness, and they're pretty consistent. They also have spike rams if you need to get close and deal mortal wounds. Custom boosters are also really cheap and haven't been hit too hard by any of the nerfs so far. So I would say they're solidly at the end of A tier. Megatrax are still really good. I would still put them at S tier. They're super strong. I would put them at the top. If I had to rank it, it would be something like this. They're still doing a lot of damage. 100 points is, I think, still very fair for them. And they'll always trade up very well in their points cost. Squig Buggies, I think, are now at the front of B tier. Their points cost was pretty extreme. They took a huge hit, and I don't know if we're going to see a lot of them. Actually, you could argue for them to be in A tier as well, like somewhere close to the Booster Blaster. I'm going to put it in B just because they're so expensive, and while they are potent, time will tell if we're going to see them played super often as we saw them earlier. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say they're at the back of A tier. Shock jumps are also somewhere between the front end of B and A tier. Buggies are still doing super well. I'm going to go ahead and put them in B as they're not seeing as much play as Squig Buggies. We'll see if these will overtake Squig Buggies. They take separate roles, so I really doubt it. But I would say shock jumps are somewhere around here. The Hunter rig is like C tier, probably near the back, maybe somewhere here. That is simply because the kill rig is so damn good, but it got nerfed pretty hard. But still, I think it can be useful, and so I would put it at the front of B tier. This was S tier, but it got nerfed, and I would say it's around B tier, maybe A, end of A, like somewhere in between there. Let's say the end of A tier. I still think it's good. It got hit pretty hard with the Chapter 2022, but I still think that people will run 2 of these in Goff's list. All right, the Beast Snagger boys are really good still. I would say they're in the middle of the A tier. They're still doing pretty good. They're pretty points efficient. It's just, once again, infantry lists are not so hot right now, but I would put them, over here in the middle of A. We got another beast boss here. Sorry, I actually put in 2 because they're just so cool. But I actually didn't know how to take them out, so that's why there's 2 of those. Mozrog is somewhere here in C tier. We're seeing not much of him. We're seeing him more early on. I'll say he's like maybe here. He did get nerfed a lot too, so time will tell, see if he has any usability, but right now he's pretty damn weak. The Nobon Smasher is interesting because we were seeing this guy a lot, but right now he's seeing very limited play. He's seeing some play. I would put him like above regular boys, which is kind of sad. Again, I would love to see boys be strong. Gasgol is super hot right now. I would put him S tier. He's putting in work. He's in every list that's Goff's. He's punching faces. We were wrong about Gaz, and we should apologize because he is putting in work, okay? We were wrong, guys. We were all wrong. Gaz is still punching and crumping, and he's doing great in all the lists. The Battle Wagon, interesting. It got pretty big buff. I would say it would sit around here in the B tier. I'm expecting to see a lot more Battle Wagons. Like, they're pretty damn efficient in points now. And time will tell. Once again, time will tell. It's still early. There's still more GTs that have to be played. But I do think that the Battle Wagon is going to see more play in competitive. The Gun Wagon, unfortunately, I don't think is going to have the same effect on Orc list. I still think it's too weak. And for that reason, I'll put it in the middle of C tier. War Boss in Mega Armor, definitely S tier. This guy has seen a lot of ups and downs, but we're seeing him back at it again. Just doing what he do, being a strong, survivable character, giving that nice +1 to hit to everybody, and he's putting in work. And he is S tier. Defcopta's so hot right now. Actually, if I had to move this, I would say this guy's here. Gaz is probably up here too, somewhere like this. And Defcopta's is so hot right now. Defcopta's are just crumping everything. Okay, they're blowing up the custodies. They're dealing with the nids, all the bugs. The rockets are flying, and Defcoptas are just doing the most. They are wrecking everyone right now. So, and a lot of lists are running speed mobs as Evil Sun, so they can take the Defcoptas and make them more maneuverable, and it's doing the most. Squigoff, I would say, is the end of C tier. It's honestly, man, this is like even debatably D tier. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put it D tier. It's really not good. Gargantuan Squigoff is even worse. Putting it at the back of D tier. Man, which is sad. I would love to see some big squigs up here, but we just got the little squigs. Knobs on Bike is definitely D tier. There's no reason why you would take these when the Warbikers are so much better than the knobs on Warbikes. So for that sole reason, it's D tier. It's just that there's no reason to take them on a like statistic level. You just always want to have Warbikers because they're like far superior for the points cost. Half track is also half track is interesting, but yeah, it's also D tier. It's not seeing much play, and there's good reason for that. It's not doing anything. Like if this had the ability of Truck Boys, I would say this could be up there because it has more movement. It's a bit more durable, but right now there's no reason to take it. Just take trucks because you can give Truck Boys to your boys or Mega Knobs. Mech Boss Buzzgub is, in my opinion, at the end of C tier. The triple kill tank list where we saw him is no longer existent, and he just doesn't have a space in any archetype right now. Grot tanks are really bad. I would put them at the end of D tier. They need a lot of help to be competitive right now. Mecha Dread is probably more playable than a lot of these units. Probably more so than maybe just above. Maybe somewhere around here. It's pretty playable, but not extravagant, which is what competitive players look for. Competitive players are just trying to min-max the most. So for that reason, it would definitely be C tier. Garot Mega Tank, I think, has some potential. I'm going to put it around here in C tier. Debatably even in B tier. It has seen actually some action in some lists, and it's performing well. Yeah, I could safely put it in B tier. There was some popping up in freebooters list. But you know what? Actually, given that you actually cannot take this in speed mobs, right? So that's a huge hindrance because freebooters got pretty nerfed recently. So yeah, I would say it's somewhere around here at the entrance of C tier. Kill tanks, they got hit pretty hard because they don't have Ramshackle, but at the same time, they're still decent. I would say they're above the Grot Mega Tanks, and yeah, I could see them if they get like a little bit of a buff. I could see triple kill tanks coming back for sure. Weird Boy is definitely B tier. Has a lot of use in Goffless. It's somewhere around here. It's a nice utility unit. Actually, maybe here. It's pretty strong still. A lot of people were sad because you can't jump 30 boys anymore, but this thing still has a lot of utility, and it can buff up your other units and make them crumpier, which is always nice. Boss Snickrot, unfortunately, is not so hot. He's probably right around the end of C tier, maybe above the Ludas, somewhere around here. Not seeing much play at all. Zackstruck, same thing. I think he is in the beginnings. Actually, you know what? He did see some play here and there. Maybe he's around here. he has some potential. Being locked to specific clans really does suck though. Mad Dog Grotznik is probably the end of C tier as well. I mean, he's a little bit better. I would say he's a little bit better. Is he better than the Pain Boss? Honestly, no, he's not. So he's somewhere around here. He's in the D tier, unfortunately. Mech with custom force field is not being used too much, but it's still seeing some play, and it still has some utility as being one of the cheaper HQ choices. So I would put it at the end of B. Interestingly, our Flyboy Zackstruck is doing pretty hot and is showing up in Goff's list, punching people. So I would put him at the end of A tier, and he's actually doing all right. Tank Busters, I think, have a lot of potential, and they do pop up in some lists here and there. But are they performing well enough that I would justify putting them in B tier? Honestly, yeah. If I'm going to put them in B tier, yeah, I think I could. They're a decent unit. Knobwood Wallbanner, interestingly, is seeing some usage. I would put it probably in the same line as Boys. The Weird Boy is seeing like very little play. It's probably going to be around here in the C tier. And another Beast Boss. Cannon Wagons are really nice. The fact that their wagon actually is a big nerf to them, but they perform well when run in lists and freebooters as well. And they're actually, I think they're super underrated. Custom Stompa, you just don't really want to use that. It's just the worst version of the Stompa. Rather have the Stompa. Mega Dread is really good right now. I would say it's A tier for sure. It's punching people and doing a lot. And the War Boss on Warbike, my favorite unit from 8th edition, is probably around here. It's back in, it's not better than ever. It's actually a little worse than before, but it's back. And a lot of lists are running the War Boss on Warbike once again. So that there we go. There is the tier list. So just a quick recap. S tier. I would say Def Cop is definitely coming in hot. Next is, I would say these are tied actually. The War Boss and Mega Armor and War Boss on Warbike are definitely tied. Gasgul is definitely up there as well. Megatrax Scrapjets definitely up there. Wazbomb's definitely up there. Storm Boys definitely up there, and same with the Bikers. They've become such key units. Def Killa, strong A unit. Dakajet also a strong A unit. Squig Buggies also strong A unit. Trucks definitely. Mega Dreads. The Beast Snagga Boys. The Weird Boy. The Mega Knobs definitely I think we're going to see a lot more of. Custom Booster Blasters. I think Squig Buggies still are A tier. Same with the Kill Rigs and Zackstruck. At B, we got the Shock Jump. Killer Cans. Beast Boss on Squigosaur. Commandos. The Battle Wagon. Boomdaka's Knobs. The Big Mech and Mega Armor, Mech Guns, regular boss. We got the Burnas, the Mech with Force Field, the Tank Busters, and the Cannon Wagon. And on C tier, we got the Blitzers, this is the Burnabama, the Blitzer. We got the Knob on Smash a Squig, Boys, Knob with the Wa Banner, Kill Tanks, Grot Mega Tanks, Def Dreads, Big Mech, bunch of Gretchies, Mazrog, Mecha Dread, Beast Boss, the Wereboy, Flash Gits. Is this the Hunter? Yeah, it's the Hunter Rig. Sorry, the icons are so small. Snake Rot, Ludas. This is the Gorkanaut, Stompa, the Rolla, Death Rolla, Gunwagon, Morkanaut, Pain Boy, Shock Attack Mech, Flash Gits, and Boss, Big Mech, Boss. We got in D tier, we got the Half Track, Knobs, Squigoff, the Pain Boss, Grotznik, Runterd, Makari, Zagrod. We've got the Giant Squig, Grot Tanks, and Custom Stompa. Now, you might be looking at this and being a little sad. Oh man, a lot of our Orc units are in C tier. But I would say that anything from C tier is actually still playable, especially if you're in a casual game setting. They're totally playable, and you'll still have a lot of fun playing with them. You won't be so sad, and it'll still be a fun time. B tier plus is where you can start building an army that's going to be extremely competitive, and you're going to see your army excel against most lists. I would say the Orks, we were an S tier faction. I'm thinking now we're like a B tier faction right now. S tier being like Nids, Custodes, Tau, and then we would be in the next group below that, mixed in with Knights and who's hot right now? Knights, Drukhari. They took a big hit, but Drukhari, and yeah, in that little group there. So this is my thoughts on the current ranking of all of the Ork codex. Let me know what your thoughts are. What would you change? And again, I am always a proponent of play what you think will work. Don't take anybody's opinion or the meta's opinion as fact, because a lot of things change all the time. People wrote off Gazgul. We said, oh, Gaz is useless now. People said, oh, the War Boss on Warbike is useless now. People said Beast Boss is going to be running the show, but now it got nerfed. People were saying so much stuff about everything, but people were saying Death Dreads were gonna be awesome, but now they're not that hot anymore. So you always got to keep an open mind when playing the actual games, and what's happening right now always dictates and triumphs over people's lists that they used in the past, because the past is basically set in stone and the meta is always evolving. So always experiment, guys. Try what you think is cool. Have fun with your list. I always want to say it's better to have fun with your list than just build a list that you found online because you think it's gonna win you the most games. Because at the end of the day, this is a hobby. I mean, there is competitive Warhammer, but it's really not like a lot of the top competitive games where those games were built to be competitive. This is really a hobby game. So other than that, thanks for watching. Thanks for everybody who's subbing. All your likes and comments. Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, guys, keep those dice rolling. Stay safe out there.